Hey everybody, it's Boo Ray Perry from Tampa, Florida, and in this video I want to do something I've been actually wanting to do for a while. A lot of people talk about all the color sims, all the different film sims that exist in Fuji cameras, but you don't hear people talk much about the black and white. I'm a person who likes to shoot in black and white a lot, and there are several black and white options available to you if you're shooting with a Fuji camera. You can shoot with Acros. You can shoot with monotone. You can shoot with one of the film simulations and then convert it to black and white in software after the fact. So the question is, which one is the best, right? If you want to shoot in black and white, or if you want to produce black and white images with a Fuji camera, which one is the best? So I have done some scientific testing. We are going to look at some images and settle once and for all which sim you should be using or not using if you want to shoot in black and white with a Fuji camera. All right. Let's look at some images. I shot all of these images in JPEG and in RAW because I wanted to compare the JPEGs and I wanted to compare the RAWs. I think, though, that if you're really thinking about shooting with a Fuji camera and you want to shoot in black and white and you want to compare your black and white images, that you want to really look at shooting in JPEG. Now, I shoot in RAW most of the time because it gives you the most versatility. But for this experiment, it's really about trying to figure out what Fuji does with their files. You know, what does Fuji make a black and white image look like in the different settings that you can have there? And to do that, you really have to look at how Fuji converts to JPEG, not how Capture One or Photoshop converts to JPEG, right? So we're going to start with JPEG. We'll touch on RAW, but let's start with JPEG. So we're going to start with Acros, which is the simulation that Fuji uses that simulates a black and white film that they used to have called Acros. They might still have it. I don't know. Film guys, you know if they still have it. Let me know in the comments. Do they still make Acros? So this is an Acros image in black and white, and this is just a shot from my desk. I just piled a bunch of stuff here to take this shot. All of this junk is certainly not always sitting on my desk. My desk is crystal clean, but I just, I went into the garbage and I found some stuff to put on my desk. So I put all this here. I think it's got a good range of tones, mid-tones. It's got blacks, it's got whites, it's got everything. It'll be a good way for us to judge what these images look like. So let's start with Acros, and then let's compare it to just straight up monochrome. All right, here we go. Acros, and here's monochrome. Now we're going to go back to Acros, and we're going to go back to monochrome. Do you see a difference? I do. I definitely see a difference, and it looks to me to be a little bit in the mid-tones, but mostly in the blacks and the whites. Acros seems to have a little bit more contrast than monochrome. Monochrome's a little bit more flat, I guess you would say, for lack of a better word. Let's go back to Acros. Like, look right up here in the cup, okay? This is Acros, and look right here, and watch monochrome. Yeah, see how, I don't want to say muddy, more mid-tony it is, I guess it'd be a better way to say it. Definitely more mid-tones here than there is with Acros, and this is going to be borne out, I think, if we look at the histogram. So let's pull the histogram up and take a look here. And this is Acros, and this is monochrome. So let's take a look at the ends, the whites and the blacks. And by the way, if you don't understand how histograms work, I have a video on my channel. Boo Ray explains histogram, explains how histograms work. So you should take a look at that because it's a fantastic tool for understanding how your camera sees things. So if we look at the histogram here, when you're looking at Acros, you see here at the black end, there's a big spike right after pure black. There's a big spike to here, and then a bigger spike that's inside, not pure black, but still in the dark range. Okay, and on the white end, you can see it tails right off to the edge of white. But if you go to monochrome, watch what happens. First of all, if you look at the whites, there's nothing in this image that's pure white. In the monochrome image, nothing is pure white. The whitest thing in the image is still not pure white. And then on the dark end, on the blacks, you can see there's nothing in this image that's pure black. And then it spikes a little bit here, so you got this much stuff that's pure black. I mean, that's not pure black, that's dark. This much stuff that's not quite as dark, and then a big spike here at the even more not quite as dark range. But if you look at Acros, watch what happens here at this left end when you click it. Watch. Boom. And you can see that the spike that is closer to true black happens sooner, and this looks like it might actually have a little touch of pure black in it. And on the white end, you can see there is a few pixels here that are going to be pure white. So what we're seeing here with Acros versus Monochrome is that with Acros, you're going to get more contrast. Monochrome is going to be a little bit more mid-tone, a little bit more flat. And with Acros, your blacks are going to be a little blacker and your whites are going to be a little whiter. So it's really a question of which one you prefer. And I can tell you that I personally tend to push my images when it comes to black and white to a lot of contrast. I like there to be hard blacks and hard whites because that's just the way I am. I like there to be a detail between the blacks and the whites, but that's not the only way to shoot. And there are times when monochrome is going to work better for you. But you can see, especially in this mug right here, you can just look at this hot spot right here. Acros, monochrome. See how monochrome immediately brings it down so that you don't lose any detail in that mug? So now, we're looking at Acros. Let's go down to Provia. So Provia or Provia, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, to be honest. And if you know, correct me please in the comments. I would love to know. How do you pronounce? Is it Provia or Provia? So let's look at Provia. This is a Provia JPEG, and let's convert it to black and white. And then let's take a look at how it stacks up against monochrome and Acros. Because if you can shoot in a color mode and then convert to black and white and have it be the same as if you shot in black and white, well, that's the best of both worlds. Now you've got a color JPEG and you can easily convert it to a black and white JPEG. Right? So let's look at that. So here's Acros, and now let's go to Provia. All right, back to Acros, back to Provia. There's definitely a difference there. Let's take a look at the Instagram. Let's pull that over. The Instagram. I always call it the Instagram. It's the histogram. So here's Acros, and here's Provia. Well, right off the bat, down here in the whites, once again, there is no doubt that with Provia, it is preserving your highlights. There is nothing in the image that is pure white. It's preserving your highlights for you, right? Whereas with Acros, it's like, no, we have no problem going pure white. So you're going to get more contrast from your whites with Acros than you are with Provia. And down here in the blacks, we're seeing the same thing. Look at Acros. See, a lot more image, a lot more dark in the image than you're getting with the Provia JPEG here. And you can see it's much further in before we start to see any blacks. So nothing in the Provia image is pure black, and you go this far in before you actually start to get black. Whereas with the Acros image, boom, the blacks are pushed much more over to the left. So once again, we're looking at the same situation that we were looking at with the monochrome, which is that with Acros, you are going to get more contrast. And it's funny to me though, because when you look at this, and when you look at this Provia image, I seem to see more whites here, right, than I do with the Acros image. Let's go back to look at that again. Here's Provia. Yeah, like this is brighter. See how this is brighter down here in the edges and brighter out here? So I find that to be interesting because when you look at the actual Instagram, it doesn't look that Instagram. The histogram, it doesn't really look that way. Okay, so what are we learning from this? I think that if you're shooting in Provia, you know, you can probably correct this. You can, if you want more blacks and more whites, you want more clipping, so forth. All you got to do is go into your level setting and adjust your levels, and you can get that. So the other question just is in the quality. Are you seeing a definite change in the quality? And I'm really not. I mean, Acros is great, but if I went into Provia and just went into, say, my levels, right, and just I could even just do an automatic levels. Automatic level that I can bring in the more blacks, more whites, and then I could go into my exposure and just up my contrast a little bit. And I'm going to get an image that looks very close to what I'm getting with the Acros. So with just a minor adjustment, you can get it. And that means you're going to get the best of both worlds. You're going to be able to shoot in color, but still have a black and white image that rivals what you get with Acros. and shooting only in black and white. And that's a great way to go because it really gives you more options, because a lot of times shooting in black and white is great, but sometimes an image is just better if it's in color. So yeah, shooting in Provia might be the way to go. So just as an experiment, I decided, what happens if you shoot in Classic Chrome, which is my preferred film sim. I shoot in Classic Chrome all the time. So what if you shoot in Classic Chrome, you convert that to black and white? Then what do we get? So let's compare this Classic Chrome black and white to Acros. Acros, Classic Chrome. So when we were looking at these images before, Acros was giving us more contrast. Acros was giving us more pure whites and more pure blacks. But when we go to Classic Chrome, we get even more, which explains why when I shoot in that that I like to shoot my Classic Chrome. I like to shoot Classic Chrome and convert it, because if you look here, and I'm saying that this is the case, but we haven't actually proved it yet. So let's look at the histogram. So here's Acros, right? And then here's Classic Chrome that's been converted. Boom! Look at your blacks. You are absolutely clipped. So if you're shooting in Classic Chrome and you're converting to black and white, you are going to clip your blacks. You're going to have some sections of your image that are pure black with no detail. Funny, it didn't clip the whites, though, but it did definitely clip the blacks. Let's go back to Provia. Let's go back to Acros. Yeah, see, nothing else. There's Acros, there's Monochrome, there's Provia. Provia saves the most in the dark areas. And then there's Classic Chrome, and it just jams everything to the left. But that's because Classic Chrome is mimic a certain type of film stock for Fuji, and that particular sort of film stock tended to do that, so they push everything that way. It pushes everything that way. When you convert it to black and white, it stays the same way it was in film. So for me, personally, I think that for most cases, I'm going to continue to shoot in Classic Chrome, and then I'm going to convert it to black and white if I want to convert it to black and white. So what have we learned from all of this? Well, everybody's got to make their own decision, right? It's easy to go to folks on YouTube and be like, what do you do, Boo-Ray? And well, here's what I do, and then you just do what I do. But I really encourage you not to do that. I really encourage you to look at the images yourself. And listen, it's fun. Part of what is fun about being a photographer is the experimentation. You know, it's the fact that you can do so many things. So take your camera, go out, shoot some JPEGs, shoot in Provia, shoot in the different settings. Oh, I forgot to look at the RAWs. Okay, well, I can tell you this right now. I did look at the RAWs, and the only difference you see between the RAWs and the JPEGs is that the RAWs have a little bit of vignetting. A little bit of vignetting, which you have to remove. That's about it. But the JPEGs are really, really good and really, really clean. So go out and do some tests. Do you like more midtones? Do you like a more flat, a more even tone across your grays? If that's the case, you probably want to shoot in monochrome. But if you want a little bit more punch, a little bit more hard blacks, a little bit more hard whites, go to Acros, or even you can go up to Provia if you want to. And if you want a lot of punch, go to Classic Chrome. That's what I shoot in. I like it to be like black and white. That's just me, bro. That's my style. And not always. I mean, really, it's kind of a picture-by-picture basis most of the time. Hey, listen, thanks for watching the channel, and don't forget that all the stuff that I carry, all of my gear, everything that I put on my cameras, all my accessories for my Fuji X100V, they're all listed on my website on my gear page. And if you go there and you click something and you go to Amazon, you buy it, then I end up making a couple of dollars. It's a great way to support the channel because I don't like just to beg for money, which you can also just give me money. You can just give me a tip right down in the tip thing, and that's great. But I prefer it if you were getting something out of the deal. So be sure and go look at my gear page. Also, join me on Facebook. I have a group called Pro Photo Talk with Boo-Ray Perry, which is a great place to post questions about anything, because it's not just me, but it's hundreds of professional photographers that are in that group, and many of them will be more than happy to jump in and give you some help if you need it. It's a nice community. And also follow me on Instagram. I post examples of my work and notifications when I have new videos that come out, but also I post a lot of funny memes, so it's a nice little thing to have in your Instagram feed, so be sure and join me there. All right, that's it for now. I'll see you next time.